WBS, where quality matters.
This juncture, we roll. I will use the presentation list as presented to me. We did not ballot this, but as they are typed. And therefore, Ankole Western, I think it is in alphabetical order from what I see, except Chambugo. Ankole Western is A, Bugema is B. Chambugo should have come before that, but I and K, actually IU comes before that. It is in alphabetical order. And for that matter, ladies and gentlemen, we'll ask Mr. Taremo Godwin to open this afternoon's session.
I'm glad to be here, and I'm also very happy to be here before you. The topic we are going to discuss about is political parties, or multi-party political system and political pluralism. Multi-party system in Uganda started in 1940s, and it started in Uganda, and the first political party to be formed, it was formed by the Baganda. It was called Bataka Uprising Party. That party was formed purposely to deal with colonialists, because by that time there was discrimination, there was equality, people are not getting fair treatments in hospitals, and those people in Uganda decided to start a party, and a party they think that could bring them together, they could sit together and prepare the colonialists to give them what they thought they wanted. And after that party, they were, even if it was not a very big party, that is why it did not survive like other parties. There were also formation of other parties like the African National Congress. But I want to enlighten you on how political parties were formed. By then, you know, political parties were formed, some people are basing on tribalistic tendencies. That is why I've told you that this Bataka Uprising Party in Uganda, people were discriminated all over the country. But you see, at times, the way how people started parties in Uganda and all over the world, at first they started them basing on religion, basing on tribalistic tendencies, and some other things. But with time, they realized that there was a need for Africans to sit together, to have a common interest, to demand for independence. And they resolved and decided that all people were supposed to come and forget about their differences and demand for independence. And the countries that hadn't started political parties by then started political parties to demand for political independence. But we see after independence, we are going to see parties going back to prepare themselves for political governance, because every party, one of the reasons why a party is formed, it is none other than assuming power. So we see African National Congress was started, and then after African National Congress, we got independence. Then after getting independence in 1962, we see Kabaka taking on, and we see Milton Obote coming, you know, UPC formed a coalition with NC. And after forming that coalition, UPC and Kabaka Yeka, Kabaka took the presidency of this country and the control of this country. Then Kabaka became the president of the country with Milton Obote as the prime minister. But the way how the constitution was made, it was made in a way to give the prime minister a lot of powers, even than the president. That is why Kabaka did not even survive, because the powers that were vested in hands of Milton Obote were, as a prime minister, were more than the powers that were vested in the president of the country. And then after there came disagreements. Kabaka went off. Milton Obote continued up to 1971, when he was overthrown by Idi Amin Dada when he was in Singapore. Then Idi Amin Dada was a kind of person who could not even allow political parties to go on, because after all, he was not even knowing what political parties were all about. Then in that period, we did not have political parties. Then we went on up to 1971. Then from there came, after overthrow of Amini, there came the Uganda National Liberation Front. It was something not actual a party. Then from African National Liberation Front, then Obote came again in 1980. They held elections, and after elections, Obote became a president under UPC up to 85, 86 when he was overthrown by Museveni. Then when Museveni came, for him, he thought Uganda would be a better country to be without political parties. And to do so and consolidate himself into power, he realized with those people from other political parties, Kawanga Semogore, you come here and you become a minister, so that they could forget parties. So those guys supported him. Then after sometimes they realized that Museveni was a kind of a person whom you could not go with and trust. And they said, let's go back and start our parties. But it was not embraced and it was not welcomed because it took us time to get back into multi-party political dispensation. In 2000, a referendum was held, but the man was against parties. In 2005, we see a referendum there. He was supporting political parties because international bodies has convinced him that unless you let them go on, you are not going to get money. You are not going to get what? After DP and Kawanga Semogore challenging him in a court where Justice W. Wambuzi judged that there was a need to have a referendum and a referendum to decide which political system Uganda wanted to go with. Then, according to the Constitution of Uganda, when you read the Constitution of Uganda and read Article 1969...
Mr. Tarimo, now that there isn't any point of information coming from your fellow panelists, if I may ask,
Yes.
with all the history that you have narrated, which way Uganda?
Yeah, that is why I was coming. So now, we are in multi-party political system. But is a multi-party political system a yardistic way of Uganda if it is to be ruled democratically? Is it not?
You have less than a minute.
I think with the political parties, they would bring people of the common interest together and they discuss about how Uganda should be governed. For example, we are hearing people there discussing about political reforms. Those are people from opposition. Those are people from political parties. They will sensitize the masses about what is going on in politics, and people will get to know what they should do or what they shouldn't do. They will also pressurize the government on service delivery and to ensure that the way how services are delivered is effective. Then we still have challenges, even if we have all these political parties. What are the challenges? Egocentric ideas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taremwa. We hope that you will be able to recap the others during either points of information or during the extra 2 minutes subsequently. Mr. Taremwa mastered the history of this country very well. You'll give him an applause. And as he takes his seat, I will read out the universities we have here, depending on how far and how good my sight is. You raise your placard and my cameraman will look for it. I see Uganda Matters University. I see Mountains of the Moon. I see Makerere University. I see Kampala International University, Makerere University Business School, Mbarai University of Science and Technology, Kampala University, All Saints University. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, we'll ask Mr. Musinguzi Albert to take to the podium. Mr. Musinguzi Albert from Bugema University. Can I see the Bugema University people? Okay. Mr. Albert Musinguzi, pluralism and political parties or multi-party systems in Uganda. Where are the challenges? Which way Uganda?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm so much privileged to be here. This is not a mere cause, but it is a fundamental and a national cause for the purposeful situation and for whatever we have gone through since the history of Uganda. And for this matter, I take also the opportunity for CCG and even Hope Initiative clubs and organizations for all the arrangements, because as we talk right now, we are already transformed. It is not actually, next time we know they will call us here for testimonies. Dear members, I'm very sure that I'm acquainted with today's topic, pluralism and political parties, which way for Uganda. Musinguzi Albert is my name, as you have heard, from Bugema University. Pluralism and political parties, this is not something that is very new. Like my friend has brought us a very good history from Ankole. And also, I will not ignore most of the points that he has put across, because I'm very sure and certain that this is the right background. And against this, I will also move forward. But then as I'm beginning, I'm having my background, which will actually settle my approach in a way that according to chapter 1 of the 1985 Uganda Constitution, Article 1, that the power belongs to the people. But we also have Article 4. That is the same chapter 1. And this will be the background of what I'm going to propound this very afternoon. That the people shall express their need and their will to how and to how and who should govern them. So the question is who and how, and who answers this question? These are the citizens. So for that matter, I'm doing the right cause to be here because I know I'm the one who should express the will, how we should be governed. We have the fusion of power and the system of integration. How have we been working in our system of governance? That's why I'm saying that pluralism, of course, pluralism as a teacher, this one, I think as people are beginning to pose questions to me, I'm very sure I will welcome them, but you should at least address me, master. And when you say master, that means nothing is wrong because the teacher is always right. Now, it comes from the word plural. Of course, the word plural means many or more than one. And for that matter, we shall say pluralism in general. It is a condition or a state of being many. And in political terms, this can also be understood as multipartyism, meaning there is political, people are enjoying political diversity. The nationals are able to exercise the roles and the duties of being citizens. And it is for this case that we have been commissioned to become civic educators because our people are missing a lot. For that matter, political parties are groups, can also be called groups or organizations whose ideology, the best ideology is to capture state power. Dear comrades, I would also like to tell you that certainly any given society has its own leadership style or philosophy. And for that matter, the history of evolution and existence really still matters. Uganda has adopted the system of political referendum that was in July 2005, whose assent came to pass on 16th of November 2005, and was a date of commencement that was considered a Political Party Organization Act of Article 71. The previous catch-up, we can say, the adoption of political parties was the result of the satisfaction of many Ugandans who were living in a confined state of atmosphere that they wanted to be released so that they can deliberately exercise their duties as citizens. What was the inspiration of this? The whole thing is now, who is in this political climate? What is the political climate? What is the, because our political climate, there has been a lot of perishability and fragility in the political climate of Uganda. But now, how are we getting this one? Because I would have set guiding questions, like in pluralism, is it a traditional form of governance? What is the philosophy of leadership? Is the problem of Uganda's leadership form or service delivered or having a united society? At the beginning, we all know that society got leadership right away from the beginning. But people identified themselves that we were supposed to have leadership. In political philosophy, when we consider Thomas Hobbes, these are the English philosophers, Thomas Hobbes, we have also John Locke. They are saying that a society, having people come together, they thought of coming together, and that's what is called a commonwealth. In the commonwealth, they were supposed to have an organized political society, and this political society was supposed to make decisions, and under these decisions, they were also supposed to have other leaders, subordinate leaders under, and this is what we call border politique, or what we call currently decentralization. Meaning, these political parties or leadership began, even in, you can say in BC, these political parties, leadership began long time ago, and people wanted to come. The issue of political parties, it would not be our concern that this is the best leadership one would have. But then the society can even still be organized, whether they are political parties or they are not political parties. This is very serious.
Honorable Musinguzi, information. If you refocus yourself totally to the political underpinnings in Uganda, do we have a basis on which the political parties in this country are built?
Okay, thank you very much. My dear comrade and the moderator, the political parties, according to the background they gave, especially the referendum, we are very sure that according to Article 69 and 71, we have political party systems. And Political Organizations Act, that is 69 and 71 respectively. They are very much regulating how political parties should work, how they should exercise, And they are also setting a code of conduct of these political parties. Although we are seeing a lot of insurgency, a lot of violence, a lot of crackdown and any other thing, but there has been a regulatory system. The only problem is, who regulates this system? Do we have an inter-party forum or an inter-party coalition where most of the views are expressed and people are ready to come together for a common idea? Because all political parties should have a national character. This is really very sovereign.
If I may ask again, are those political parties any distinct from each other? Is there anything that distinguishes the FDC from the NRM, from DP, from CP, from the Farmers' Party?
Thank you very much. Distinctions, when we come to distinctions, that one is actually, the list can be so wide. Because as we talk, every political party has its own philosophy, as I said from the beginning. For example, we see UPC coming, actually having a lot of affiliation having a religious affiliation, like being Protestants. Anglican leaders are the ones who are doing what? Who are propounding every issue in UPC. We are seeing DP, simply meaning Dinia Papa, meaning the Pope was the chief advisor of DP. We are also seeing Samogari could not move without a rosary. Leaving a rosary would mean even the constitution has been forgotten.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right, thank you very much, Mr. Msinguzi. A round of applause for him. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll at this point ask Mr. Matanda Abubakar to step up. A few questions that I still ponder. One of those is, actually, do we have distinct political parties in this country? Or do we have a singular political party split into several fronts? Mr. Matanda.
When two people agree, one of them is not thinking. Norbert Mao, 2009. I disagree. When two people agree, they have accepted to hit a compromise, and that is pluralism. My name is Matanda Abubakar Hassan, a third-year student, Islamic University in Uganda. The topic of the day is pluralism and political parties. Which way Uganda? We will start by answering the latest question in the House, that is there a difference between our political parties in Uganda? I will answer it by saying no. The only difference which would exist would be ideological. Unfortunately, as the previous speaker said, I actually quote, he said, the ideology that all these these parties have is to capture power. And if those are the ideologies, or if that is the ideology that our parties have, then I think we are doomed. The first speaker, ladies and gentlemen, took us through a historical journey of pluralism right from the pre-independence time up to the current system. So I'm not going to take you through that history, but I'll start by defining pluralism once again, for those of you who may have not captured it. The thing is, pluralism is all about diversity. Pluralism is all about the fact that we recognize the fact that we are different in thought, in religion, in political affiliations, but then we have to live together. So under pluralism, we accept that though we have these differences, we can still have this compromise and live by it. For example, at the beginning of this forum, someone was called upon to say a universal prayer. There was recognition that within us here, we have different faiths. But if someone can give a prayer that can appeal to all the groupings, and then that way we are having pluralism. I hope you have got a better understanding of pluralism. Ladies and gentlemen, in Uganda, currently, I'm of the belief that we do not actually have pluralism. Why? Much as there have been efforts made to gear us towards this pluralism, for example, we had a referendum in 2005 where we introduced multipartyism, and our constitution by Article 69, Article 74 banning single-party state, all these writings appeal to the fact that we are trying to, in a way, forge a way of having pluralism in our country. But by my analysis as an individual, I think this is still largely on paper, but we have not been able to see this actualized in practical life. I'll go ahead to extend some examples. My understanding of political pluralism, for example, would be a situation where we have different political parties having ideologies, and these ideologies are competing, and these ideologies are sent down to us, the masses. To assess them, then we shall be able to pick and say, I think this party is the one with a better ideology. What do we have now? One, our political parties don't have ideologies which we can identify with. Two, our parties have failed to outlive personalities, individuals. I can confidently say without fear of contradiction that the National Resistance Movement, for example, a political party, without His Excellency, the President, just think about it. The FDC, Federal for Democratic Change, without Kano Kizza Besigye, you know where it is? The Uganda People's Congress, okay, without the late Dr. Milton Obote, or anyone with that brand of the late Milton Obote, you can tell me where it is. So the thing is, our parties, because they don't have ideologies towards which they can convince all of us, have failed to outlive these personalities. And now the personalities will, of course, manipulate the system to their advantage. What would I propose is the way forward, given that time is not on our side? One, I would suggest that, first of all, we start with the civic education. The reason why we are having that is all because of ignorance. As someone said, poverty and backwardness in Africa has very many roots, but the top root is ignorance. Most of our people can hardly even cite an article in our constitution. I'm very sure if you met someone on the streets of Mbale and you ask them who is the most powerful person in this country, they cannot be able to cite Article 1 and say it is us the people. They will name someone somewhere that this is the most powerful person. So you have about a minute to go. Thank you very much. We need civic education, first of all, about our laws, which is provided for under Article 4. That people will be taught about their constitution so that they know their rights. If we have a people that is aware and conscious, we shall move. Secondly, I would propose that we differentiate or we separate state institutions from the ruling party. If Honorable Richard Todwong is appointed as the minister without portfolio, and then is put in charge of mobilization for the ruling party, I think we are mixing the party and the government. If the police, the army, the judiciary, the electoral commission is being seen by the people, perceiving it as one that is favoring a certain ruling party, then you don't have pluralism. And then finally, these political parties are supposed to be supported by the government and funded by the government. We are not having that. So I believe if we re-empower these political parties, one, by having ideologies in them, I believe each one of you here can come up with an ideology. Let's form these ideologies. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Interesting. We have the Deputy RDC for Mbale, Pamela Watua, welcome. So we have the representative of the president themselves in the area. And some of the questions that Mr.